Are you ready to build your network at lightning speed? Well, mark your calendar for April 16th through the 18th and join us at Connect. You'll experience 3 days of growing, networking, and breaking through your limitations. Look, you'll never be the same. So go to attend-connect.com to learn more.
Every day for this healing. But then I was like speaking and living and seeing the world through this identity of being like this sick person. And it was that conversation that really clicked that for me.
How do you build a network, run a profitable business, and make an impact? Oh, and have a personal life at the same time? That's the question, and this podcast is the answer. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson, husband, father of 5, author of the book 5+1, president and co-founder of Master Networks Inc., a national networking organization. Look, each week I bring you successful entrepreneurs who will share success strategies of how to effectively build a network, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to Connect, Share, Prosper. This is episode 95, and I am just so excited to welcome our guest on this episode. We're going to have a lot of fun on this episode today, but I think you're going to really enjoy this message. It's very different than a lot of the messages we've had on this show, and so that's why I think it's going to really resonate with a lot of our listeners and our Master Networks family, etc. So let me share with you our guest, Jen Byer, and her focus in life, I love this, is helping others find pure freedom. Now, after finding the solution to her own fatigue through Isagenix, Jen and her husband, Aaron, have dedicated their lives to helping others feel their best by starting Pure Freedom Solutions. They're traveling the U.S. with their 2 sons. Get this, you guys. They're traveling, living the life that they've always wanted to in an RV. And they're creating the life of freedom that they've always dreamed of and wanted. Jen and Aaron homeschool their boys, run 3 businesses from their RV, and experience adventures like cliff jumping, zip lining, and trekking through endless rain across the country. Guys, welcome to Connect, Share, Prosper. Welcome Jen Byer to the episode. Hey, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And just to clarify, there's only half of my family that does cliff jumping and ziplining. My husband and my youngest son are afraid of all those things. So it's just me and my oldest that are fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So
yeah.
So listen, thanks for being on the show today. I'm excited because I think there's a lot of people who resonate with just this topic of the creating, number one, creating freedom, right?
Right.
And so why is that important? It's, right in the bio. And I just want to mention, you're one of our Master Networks, part of our Master Networks family. You guys are part of that. You're part of the coaching program, et cetera. And I've just seen such amazing growth and success. And I wanted our listeners to hear your story today, but let's start first with what is Pure Freedom Solutions? Why the freedom component, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, and it's really evolved over the last 8 years. Our entrepreneurship journey really started when our youngest was a baby. He was just 5 months old. It was 8 years ago. And we were both working full time. And I found myself just walking through life just like a zombie, right? Just running through the rat race. And I felt like I wasn't even really living. I was just going through a lot of emotions. And I was really desperate to be a stay-at-home mom at that time. I was missing out on all the moments with my kids. And I was just tired of it. And that's what really launched us into entrepreneurship. We jumped into network marketing and had some success there, and really wanted to help a lot of people just create freedom in every area of their life once we started to discover it, right? First, it was our health. Then it was getting me out of my job so I could have the freedom to be home with my kids. And then we're going to talk about some other things where I really, lost my health for a while because I experienced some major health issues. And then I really found freedom in my faith. So It's really evolved over the last 8 years from what it was in the beginning.
Yeah. So you talked about, wanting to be home with the kid, like walking through life as a zombie. And I think there's people that relate to that, especially as business owners, right? It's like being present or going through the motions, and it's tough to be present all the time, especially in the sense of being an entrepreneur, because you're giving so much of yourself. Most people in business are service oriented. So they're giving. And then it's like, oh, I got to show up and be present and give so much to my family, right?
Right.
So you talked about your health. I want to jump there because, we have members and listeners who struggle with health issues right now. And so, to whatever you're comfortable sharing, but what was going on? How are you feeling? What was happening? And how was it affecting you?
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to that story too, like all of them. I had really struggled with my health my entire life. I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer when I was 20 years old and kind of came through that. And then when I started with my journey, when I wanted to become an entrepreneur, I really just never felt good. At that time, I wasn't experiencing any serious health issues, but I was exercising, I was taking care of myself and doing all the things that you're supposed to do. And I just never felt good. I always felt like I was just barely had enough energy to get through my day.
Wow.
And I did have 2 young kids. So for a while, I just kind of chalked it up to that. But then I discovered Isagenix and I put those products in my body and I felt amazing for a few years. And that's what launched us into entrepreneurship. And then I hit a point in my life where all of a sudden, just kind of overnight, I started experiencing like massive food allergy issues, fatigue, flu-like symptoms all the time. I had pain, I had chest pain. And we discovered a couple of years into that my son and I both had Lyme's disease. We were both experiencing some major health issues.
Yep.
And then through that journey, we actually discovered that both of us had autoimmune diseases that we didn't know that we had that were kind of complicating the Lyme's issues.
So was it one of those things where you just thought that's how it was supposed to be, or were you struggling with doctors to get an answers to what was going on? Like, were you just like in this constant, you said journey, that's what made me think of it, right?
Yeah, it was almost two full years before I got a diagnosis. So I just developed all these food allergies. My son too had flu-like symptoms. I was sick most days. I really couldn't even get out of bed a lot of days. And we were just going to doctor after doctor, just constantly trying to figure out what was going on. And a lot of them would tell us, you know, you've got some concerning symptoms, but we're not really sure. And they would just kind of send us on our way. And then a couple of years into that, we found our doctor that we see now. And she was the one that helped us figure out that we had Lyme's disease. She was the one that helped us figure out that we had all these really uncommon autoimmune diseases. So I have 3. My son has 3, and they're not the same 3, but we were predispositioned to those.
So was it in some ways relieving to find out, like, hey, this is what, like, it had to be somewhat, right? Like, hey, this is at least what's going on. Now we can create a plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. We spent a couple of years just really walking through that, right? Because when you've had health issues your whole life and not know it, essentially it's like your body's running on maybe 3 out of 4 cylinders. And then you get hit with Lyme's disease and it just kind of shuts everything down. So we spent a couple of years really going through and rebuilding our gut health, you know, eliminating dairy and gluten to help eliminate that inflammation in the body and just rebuilding our immune system.
So amazing that this is what we're talking about today. And again, I didn't think ahead to think of this, that this wasn't planned, but I listened to a podcast this morning. It was an hour long and it was a lot about health, especially with entrepreneurs and gut health and inflammation and how damaging inflammation is to the body. And I think sometimes as a business, especially as a business owner, entrepreneur, like we take care of ourselves last often, right?
Right.
And so I want to ask you a question. It's a little bit personal in this, so feel free where you want to go with this. But when experiencing these health issues, you had the physical piece of that was causing you to not feel well. But how was your emotional health through all this? Like, I mean, I've had some surgeries. I haven't had major health issues, knock on wood, but like even through surgeries, like they never talked to me about the depression that would come with that. Right. Yeah. So I don't know what you experienced, but what was it like during that time with all this health issues? What was your emotional state like?
Yeah, it was a really dark season in our lives. You know, I had built this massive network marketing business and been able to leave my job at this point. But then I was so sick that I couldn't be with my kids the way I had dreamed of being. Right. Yeah. And then I had this huge team to run when I wasn't even functioning for my own family.
Wow.
It was a really dark space in our lives.
Yeah, I can tell, still emotional, right? I mean, it's just that it's so hard because especially when you know your capacity and you know where you want to be and you're not operating at that place, especially for those around you. What was it like for the family at the time?
It was really hard for our family too. Like I mentioned, our youngest son was also going through some major health issues, and he was little. He was only about 3, so he couldn't even communicate really what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was hard on my husband. It was especially hard on my husband those 2 years when we didn't have a diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
Because he wants to believe you and walk alongside you, and I'm not saying that he didn't, but when you don't have answers, it's easy for a lot of people to write it off and think it's in your head.
Oh,
And then
sure.
you're isolated as well, right? Because if you're not leaving your house because you're not feeling well, then you become isolated, and it can be a really hard place to be.
And I can imagine, for Aaron, who I know your husband as
Right.
well, and that's got to be a hard place for him too, because he's trying to think like, I'm sure wants to help. I'm sure he wants to be that supportive spouse of like, let's do this, let's create a plan, or how can I help you here? And when you don't have answers, you just feel helpless.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was a hard place for him as well.
It was.
So now somebody listening to this may say, well, listen, I don't have health issues. I've never had health issues.
Sure.
Maybe their health issue is something else, right? That's maybe their issue that they're dealing with, their challenge. When I say issue, it's meaning there's something they're dealing with, like, and that it's causing emotional challenges, et cetera. Tell us how did you come out of that?
Oh, so as I was walking through this healing part of the journey, the physical healing, I started to notice that my doctor and I would treat symptoms, and they would start to improve, and then another symptom would pop up.
Yep.
And that continued for a little while. I started to feel like I was playing that like whack-a-mole game. Like we would have all these minor co-infections and issues that would pop up. And I was actually at lunch one day with a friend, and I was just sharing about these struggles and the frustration, because it had been several years at this point that I had been going through this. And she called me out, and she told me, she goes, I've been praying for you for a long time, but I want to tell you that you speak like you're a sick person. And
what did she mean though? What did she mean when, like, tell me a little bit more about that. When you speak like a sick person.
So in this particular conversation, it was, well, I'm sick, I can't do that. I'm sick, I can't do that. And that had really become like the identity that I was seeing the world through. So I was praying every day for this healing, but then I was like speaking and living and seeing the world through this identity of being like this sick person. And it was that conversation that really clicked that for me, because what I had done unintentionally is I'd slow down my pace of life. I'd given myself permission to not be able to take care of everything like I had been when I was feeling at least healthier. And then in that, I had just taken on the identity that I can't do this and I can't do that because I'm sick.
So let me talk about this for just a second before we go to what you did next. Because this is for everyone listening, this is so important. I've heard other people like Tony Robbins has talked about this at length, and others, that our identity, the way we see ourselves, the identity that we've taken on, our own mindset, is what we become. Right. And so like you talk about it, and some people say, oh, that's so like foo-foo or whatever. No, it is absolutely true. Like for me to overcome certain challenges that I've seen, I had to be that already. Like if you talk to like, even, I'm trying to break this into a clearer example, but if you talk to like top level world-class athletes, they had to get there in their mind first. They had to see themselves as a world-class athlete, and then their body caught up to that. It's like, that's where their mind went first. So what you're saying is so powerful. And so if you're like people will say, I almost hate when people say, well, I have depression. Well, it's like you're taking on the identity, or I have, like I say, well, I can't do this sport because I have 2 past ruptured Achilles. Like I need to like let go of that. And because I'm taking an identity that I'm crippled and I can't do it. Right. So you had to take on a new identity.
Right.
So what I want to know now, this is the key. This is what everyone's listening to. The identity that you took on was what, and how did you get there?
Yeah. And so it's not a simple answer, but the first thing that I did, and this particular friend reminded me of this story in John 5, right? There's this man who's sitting next to these healing pools. So if you're not familiar with it, I'll just walk you through. There's 5 healing pools in the city of Bethsaida. And once a year, an angel will come down and she'll distill the water, and the first person into the pool gets healed. And so there's a man that's been sitting there for 30 something years. He's been sitting next to these healing pools. And Jesus comes up to him and asks him if he wants to be well. And the man has all kinds of excuses. I can't make it there in time. I'm too sick to get to the water. I can't get there in front of other people. And Jesus just looks right at him and asks him, do you want to be well?
Yes.
And for me, number one, it was about receiving the identity of being healed, right? That was the very first step to it. And then I had to do the work to kind of heal a lot of things that were going on of my life that were really causing me to stay in that sick identity. So it was it's still an ongoing journey, right? It's not just one thing that changes that,
For
but
sure.
it's really about for me, it was about getting in front of the Lord and just allowing him to show me exactly what needed to be healed.
So did you have to change some of your language as well about like how you saw yourself? Sorry about that. Did you have to change some of your language about how you saw yourself and the things you say about, like, even in your own mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you do
And
that?
So for a long time, so the first one that I changed, instead of I am sick, was I'm in healing. And that was the very first one. And because I was still sick at that time, I was still facing a lot of trouble. So I had to figure out a way that I could feel authentic to myself, because I couldn't just pretend I was super healthy. That wasn't going to fool even my own mind, right?
Right.
So my first one was I'm in healing. And that's where I spent a lot of time, is I'm in healing. And then now it's I am vibrantly healthy.
Oh, I love it. So let's fast forward to today a little bit, right? So
Right.
I remember being with you guys last year at a mastermind group and hearing some of your story, just bits and pieces of it in this group that we were a part of.
Yeah.
And then what I love about you guys, you and Aaron, is you're like, you have a plan, you create the plan, and then you guys just like, you go for it. And I remember you saying at this meeting, I think we're going to sell our house, or you guys had already been talking about it. We're going to sell our house, and we're going to travel the country in an RV with our boys and homeschool them and all this stuff. And I thought, that's cool. And you did it. You did it.
Yes.
Right. So how long have you been on the road, if you will?
We've been on the road for almost 6 months.
So tell us about it. What did you not expect? Like, you could plan it all out, but now you got the four of you in this RV traveling the country. What are the things you didn't plan for?
I really did not anticipate the number of I really thought we were simplifying our life, right? Like that's what I felt like God was calling us to do, is simplify our life. What I thought God was calling us to do was simplify our life. God was the one that told us to go on the road and just get rid of a lot of material possessions and just really minimize. And I thought it was simplifying our life, but what I did not anticipate was how many variables they are when you live in an RV. Because we're mobile, right? We move a lot. We don't stay in one place, because the whole point was to really explore the country and just really live out those pure freedom values that we have.
Oh, so good. So here you are, you're on the road, you're out doing this, and you're making an impact in the world. What are you working on right now? By the way, guys, we are with Jen Beyer on episode 95 of Connect, Share, Prosper. What are you working on now? Because I know you have this journey to take the things you learned that got you to where you are now. You've been able to help a group of people, and so now you're taking that out to a larger group.
Right.
Kind of give us an idea of what you're working on now, and how can people find you, or if they're going, man, sounds like me. I need some help with this. I want to reach out to you. Like website, social media. What do you want them to know? How can they find you?
Yeah. So right now I am in the process of launching my own program to really teach people the process that I created to walk through this healing journey, right? I created, even if people are struggling with health issues, people struggle with depression, they struggle with insecurity, they struggle with not being able to take action, all of those things that get in the way, unforgiveness, all of those things that block us from becoming who God really created us to be. And so I've been working on this program. It's live now. And I'm really excited to just share it with the world and teach people how to get the identity in Christ that God gave to them, and just retell those truths to ourselves instead of believing the lies, whether it's I am sick or I am not. I'm really excited about that program. What was your other question?
How can they find it? How do they get a hold of you? How do they find it?
Yeah, so our website is thisIsPureFreedom.com. And so I have a free course that I'm offering on that program, on that website. So they can find that right there. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Love it. Jen, what an awesome episode. There's so much we could keep talking about, but I want to make sure that people take the opportunity to go look at this program, be part of it. I got to have a sneak peek at it, and I think it's amazing. There's so many quality pieces. Like you said, it doesn't matter if it's just health. It could be anything really that there's a struggle with that you want to improve. You want to improve your identity.
Right.
You want to improve where you're at now. Maybe there's this gap from where you think your capacity is to where you are today, and you want to narrow that gap. This is a great program to do that. Some simple steps to lay out for you on what to do. And so, guys, make sure you go check out, say the website one more time. This is Pure Freedom.
This is purefreedom.com.
This is purefreedom.com. Go check out the website. Follow Jen. She's an amazing person. Watch for big things from her. She's going to do amazing things. She is amazing and making impact on people's lives. Jen, thank you so much for being on Connect, Share, Prosper today.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, remember, every week, Monday, noon Central, I bring you successful entrepreneurs who share their stories, the ups, the downs, the struggles, how they've overcome those. And I share that with you so that you can live that life that's worth living, create a legacy beyond your business, and impact the lives of others. So join us every Monday, noon Central, on the Master Networks Facebook page for Connect, Share, Prosper. See you next Monday. Are you ready to build your network at lightning speed? Well, mark your calendar for April 16th through the 18th and join us at Connect. You'll experience 3 days of growing, networking, and breaking through your limitations. Look, you'll never be the same. So go to attend-connect.com to learn more.